Hey everyone, it's George from Blockchain DXB and today is the 6th of June 2022, the first day of the week, and Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency market is definitely not looking good. Bitcoin is on the verge of breaking another record, definitely not a good one. This could be the first time ever that Bitcoin is down for the 10th week in a row. The last week we talked about where Bitcoin had broken a new record, and last week it was the first time in the history of Bitcoin that Bitcoin was down for a consecutive 9 weeks. So definitely not looking good for Bitcoin. So let's see what the future of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency holds in the next decade or so. What I would like to talk today is about the whole Bitcoin open source cryptocurrency movement, and the whole cryptocurrency movement, the whole nature of decentralization, distributed form of consensus. I would like to pose a question. What is it that you guys think? So the question which I would like you to ponder for today is Bitcoin modernizing or is it Americanizing? Now I'll briefly talk about it in today's episode, and in today's episode we would once again look at where does Bitcoin fit into inflation, deglobalization and new world order in the next coming weeks, months, years and probably in the next decade or so. Coinbase has also released an article. Now, I personally am not a fan of this article. Now, the article talks about Bitcoin might, in fact, be the great equalizer. Now, there's a lot of incorrect information in this particular article. So, essentially, they've taken a survey from one of the leading publications. Now, one of the reasons why I don't like this article is because they have cherry-picked the information and they've tried to portray that Bitcoin might, in fact, be the great equalizer. So, we'll be exploring that in today's episode. Now, the first time ever in the history of Bitcoin, it is on a downtrend for 10 consecutive weeks. So that is definitely not good. But 2022 is definitely a great year for Binance. Binance has some new partnership. I'll be exploring what that partnership is all about. And finally, two news from UAE. Now this time, both the news are perfectly great use case for cryptocurrencies and the whole idea of using cryptocurrencies as a medium of exchange. So the first news is about Dubai's charity called as Al Jalila Foundation. Now they plan to accept donations in cryptocurrencies, and another developer called as Binghatti Developers plans to sell properties using Bitcoin and Ethereum. So both of them are definitely great use case of using cryptocurrencies. So welcome everyone, it's 8 you're in Dubai and you're listening to Crypto and Coffee at 8, where we cover top news and information pertaining to Bitcoin, blockchain, beyond blockchain, cryptocurrencies, NFTs, DeFi and lately Metaverse as well. Now how the series of episodes on the Crypto and Coffee at 8 works is, we usually cover some top news and information pertaining to the price of cryptocurrencies and some major breaking news that has an impact in the crypto world. And occasionally we also cover short and sweet news as well. The other news and information is related to Dubai, UAE and Middle East in the world of Bitcoin, blockchain, beyond blockchain, cryptocurrencies, NFTs, DeFi and Metaverse as well. This is followed by Ask Me Anything series where you listeners can ask any questions from 8:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. Gulf Standard Time. Now every Fridays at 8 a.m. Gulf Standard Time we have an episode called Metaverse Everything where we solely focus on Metaverse. So check out the episodes on Metaverse Everything as well. The format for that podcast is completely different. I also publish a weekly report, so check those out via my LinkedIn profile, which you will see in the show notes below, or you can also go to the Medium page for Blockchain DXB. So, let's get started with today's episode. Today is the 6th of June 2022. Now, the global crypto market is down to $1.23 trillion. Now, since the last 24 hours, it is down by 0.19%. The total crypto market volume over the last 24 hours is only $45.04 billion. Now, most likely this is because it is a weekend, and since 22 of this year, people are not focusing on their finances, especially on the weekends. Now, since the last 24 hours, it is only increased by 1.89%. The total volume of DeFi is currently down to $4.51 billion. And guys, I've been noticing this since the last quarter of 2021, the total volume of DeFi has been going down. Prior to the last quarter of 2021, the total volume of DeFi, the 24-hour total volume of DeFi used to hover around 17 to 18 billion dollars. That has not been the case. It's down to less than a quarter of what it used to be. As of today, it is $4.51 billion. Now, mind you, DeFi still accounts for 10% of the total crypto market 24-hour volume. The volume of stable coins has also gone down, again most likely because it is a weekend in the US and most of the other parts of the world. The volume of stable coins now is down to $38.01 billion. Now, what is really surprising is that out of the $38 billion, Tether USDT still accounts for almost $30 billion. So Tether USDT is still dominating the stable coins. Now, stablecoin accounts for 84.39% of the total crypto market 24-hour volume. The king of all kings, Bitcoin. The price of Bitcoin is currently at $29,929. Now, despite it being on a downtrend, and most likely it might break another record of being down for 10 consecutive weeks in the first time in its history, Bitcoin's dominance is going up, and as of today it is 46.20%. Now, since the last 24 hours, it has marginally increased by 0.09%. Ethereum's dominance is currently at 17.70%. Now, the price of Bitcoin since the last 24 hours is marginally up by 0.45%, and since the last 7 days, it is up by 1.58%. So, as of today, it is $29,929. Ethereum, aka First World Computer, the price is $1,805. Now, it is marginally up by plus 16%, plus 0.16%. And since the last 24 hours, it is down by 0.33%. Binance Coin is also below the $300 mark. As a matter of fact, it's $299. Now, since the last 24 hours, it is down by 0.78%, and over a period of 7 days, it is down by 2.24%. So let's start with today's episode where we discuss about, is Bitcoin modernizing or is it Americanizing? Now, what I'd like you guys to do is think about all the news and information that you get about Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, the whole open source movement, the whole notion about, or the whole narrative about our finances being distributed or decentralized. Is the entire thought process, is it modernizing or is it Americanizing? All of the podcasts that you listen to, pretty much all of them are American. Most of the YouTube channels are also American. Now, ideally, Bitcoin should not be that in that case, because Bitcoin does not have any geographical restrictions. It is borderless, but the fact is the entire world is still Americanizing. Back in 2002, there was a brilliant article written by Yoichi Shimura, and the article was called Globalization versus Americanization. Now, the reason I know this article real well, because when I went to do my master's, on the very second day at the university, we had a topic called strategic management, and the professor made us read through this article. So this article, Globalization versus Americanization, definitely needs to be revisited once again today. What the article talks about is, generally speaking, is the world modernizing, or is it globalizing, or is it Americanizing? So you need to look at it from a different lens. Now, generally, when we look at our lifestyle, are we trying to become more American, or are we trying to live a globalized world? Now, our ego might come forward and we say that, hey, you know what, we are not Americanizing, but we are globalizing. That necessarily need not be the case. So you may want to revisit, keep your ego aside, and try to link this thing in terms of Bitcoin as well. Now, Bitcoin has become the most important economic, political, and cultural phenomenon in recent times. So my question is Bitcoin modernizing or is it Americanizing? Are we just trying to follow what the Americans are saying? Now, with deglobalization set as the next agenda for the next coming weeks, months, years, and probably the next decade or so, where does Bitcoin fit into deglobalization and the New World Order? The one thing what happened last week was that the Treasury Secretary, Janet Yellen, she admitted last week that she did fail to anticipate how long or high the inflation would continue. So there was an interview on CNN with Wolf Blitzer. in that interview, she actually did admit that she did not anticipate the inflation to be very high. Now, Bitcoin maximalists are definitely quite notorious in making this particular point, and they just blatantly say that Bitcoin fixes this. So the Bitcoin maximalists have this narrative that Bitcoin fixes everything. As a matter of fact, they even say that Bitcoin fixes racism. I just don't understand how. Without giving any concrete reason or explanation, they just push this narrative that Bitcoin fixes everything. The only explanation that you would get is Bitcoin's supply is fixed. That's the reason why Bitcoin fixes everything. So my question is, where does Bitcoin fit into inflation, deglobalization, and New World Order? Now remember, Bitcoin is on the track of a record 10 consecutive weeks of losses for the first time ever. Now it could be possible that a lot of the Bitcoin whales are accumulating a lot of Bitcoin because the price of Bitcoin has gone down. It becomes much more easier for multi-billionaires, institutions, the rich and elites to go ahead and acquire more Bitcoin. And this is where the whole notion about demand versus supply kicks in. So demand versus supply mixed with game theory and human greed is equivalent to the price volatility that you experience in the cryptocurrency market. Now Coinbase did publish an article called as Bitcoin might in fact be the great equalizer. Now in this article, they have taken a global survey done by Block. Personally, I do find that this is a very misleading report. Now in that report, they mention about Nigeria finds it more appealing to use Bitcoin. My question is pretty simple. At the price tag of $29,900 odd, which is still relatively less for Bitcoin, probably half of its all-time high, do you guys think it is possible for a Nigerian to go ahead and buy Bitcoin? It's basic common sense. But what that report says is that Nigeria and Argentina and a lot of other countries can be benefited by Bitcoin. Now this definitely will be true, but are they in a position to go ahead and buy Bitcoin? So definitely very misleading article. The report also ends with a woke mentality, and they've mentioned that the gender gap is more pronounced in America but less in male-dominated countries in other parts of the world. So I'm really not sure how they have published this report. Also, if you look at all the cryptocurrency influencers, that is either on YouTube, Instagram, on TikTok, their whole narrative and the thought process is like this. If the price of Bitcoin is low, they will tell their followers to buy more Bitcoin as it is on a discount. When the price of Bitcoin is high, they will tell their followers that Bitcoin is high and it's only going to go higher. So this entire narrative of cryptocurrency influencers is definitely selfish. Now Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, DeFi is definitely not having a good 2022. But Binance is definitely having a great 2022. Last entire week we talk about Binance having different partnership, receiving licenses in Italy, in Dubai and in other parts of the world. Now yesterday, Binance announced that it is the official sponsor of the Weeknd's global concert. Now Weeknd is, I believe, a musician from Canada, and he's having a tour called as After Hours Till Dawn. Now personally, I'm not a fan of hip-hop, but in case if you are a fan of hip-hop, definitely great news. Now this will be the first concert to introduce Web3 technology, and Binance is the official sponsor. I'm pretty much sure they might have loaded him with quite a lot of cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin. I'm not sure if it is an entire group or is it just one person or one musician called as the Weeknds. Probably if you are into hip-hop, you might know that Weeknd is maybe just one person, or is it a group? I'm really not sure. Personally, I listen to heavy metal, so if you ask me anything about heavy metal, I'll definitely be quite keen. As a matter of fact, this coming week there is one of the biggest heavy metals festival which is taking place in England, and it would be really nice if Binance is the official sponsor for that as well. Moving on to the next news, that is Yuga Labs Bored Ape Yacht Club other side Discord group has been breached, and apparently the guy who hacked it did manage to steal over 145 ETH. So what happened was that there was a group manager on Discord by the name of Boris Wagner. Someone apparently hacked into his account and tried to send out emails and scam, and people actually did believe it because they found it to be seen from Boris Wagner's account, and apparently a lot of people did lose 145 ETH. So definitely not looking good for Yuga Labs, and it is definitely a breach. So I'm not sure what happens, let's say, in case of NFTs if they are stolen. Does the NFT get transferred or is code is locked? Because remember, when you talk about blockchain technology, the whole notion and narrative is that blockchain technology is immutable. Now, what happens if the NFT is stolen? Now, this gets a little bit tricky. When an NFT is stolen, and you can prove that it is stolen, the actual artwork can still go back to the person from whom it is stolen, because what goes into the blockchain is only a header, a direction to where the file is stored. So the question is code law? Now, Laura Shin has a brilliant episode where they actually break down what happens if an NFT is stolen. Does the person who actually has access to the current NFT, can he legally go and resell it? Is he the actual owner of the NFT? So a lot of legality is involved in that. Now that's all for news regarding cryptocurrency. Now let's move on to two news about UAE, and both news are fantastic use cases of cryptocurrency. So the first news is about a Dubai charity called as Al Jalila Foundation plans to accept donation in cryptocurrencies. Now, Al Jalila Foundation is founded in 2013. It is a not-for-profit organization dedicated to transforming lives through medical research, education, and treatment in the UAE, a charity organization for promoting medical education and research in the UAE, and it is founded by Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, the Prime Minister of the UAE and the ruler of Dubai. Now, the motto of Al Jalila Foundation is a global philanthropic organization dedicated to transforming lives through medical education and research. So the news is that the Al Jalila Foundation becomes the first healthcare charity in the UAE to receive donations in cryptocurrency. So definitely great news. Now, there's not much information known about this. They've just mentioned it via the official media channels and via Twitter. In the article, which is a very short article, they have mentioned that they are partnered with a leading cryptocurrency platform. Now, it's unclear as to which platform they are partnered with. It could be that they are partnered with BitOasis or Binance or Crypto.com or FTX Exchange. All of these cryptocurrency exchanges are in Dubai. I would be quite keen if they are partnered with BitOasis, because BitOasis is born and brought up in UAE. It's unclear as to why they are using a cryptocurrency exchange in the first place as well. Now remember guys, Bitcoin is peer-to-peer, which means there is no central entity, there is no middle person involved. A charity should actually work this way as well. So the donor can directly send funds directly either to the foundation or to the donor recipient. And it's so important that we go ahead and revisit the Bitcoin white paper, because the second line of Bitcoin white paper does actually mention the need to eliminate the middle person. It actually says that if you have a middle person, the whole idea of using Bitcoin is completely in vain. So Al Jalila Foundation using cryptocurrency and helping out people is definitely great, but if they are using a cryptocurrency exchange or a platform, I definitely don't think so that they're doing the right thing. Now, they've put up just 3 tweets in relation to this. The first one is the Al Jalila Foundation becomes the first healthcare charity to receive donations in cryptocurrencies. The second tweet is, as a philanthropic organization, we rely on charitable donations, and we are always seeking innovative ways to expand our donation channels for ease of convenience for donors from all around the world to support the Al Jalila Foundation programs. And the third tweet is, as an emerging source of fundraising, providing the opportunity to the growing number of crypto users around the world to donate to Al Jalila Foundation to causes that interest them is a win-win for us as a foundation and the donor community. So if they were to do it directly peer-to-peer, it tackles all the auditing requirements as well. So let's say if there is a donor in, let's say, America, and if he wants to donate funds directly to Al Jalila Foundation, Al Jalila Foundation just needs to give them the public address. Voila, and the thing is settled then and there itself. You can also have an audit trail and track where the funds have come from. The problem arises if there is a cryptocurrency exchange in between. Now, it could also be possible that Al Jalila Foundation has partnered with a cryptocurrency exchange And the role of the cryptocurrency exchange is to convert that funds into the local currency, that is the RAMs, and give that funds to Al Jalila Foundation so that they can finally use it for educational purposes, for research, and for helping out Asians. That could also be a possibility. But nonetheless, definitely a great use case. The next news is about Dubai's Binghatti Developers plans to sell properties using Bitcoin and Ethereum. Again, fantastic use case. Now, Binghatti Developers is one of the largest holding companies and property developers in the UAE. They deal with real estate, food and beverages, hospitality, industrial, fast-moving consumer goods, construction and design sectors. Binghatti is UAE's developer of artistic and affordable homes with a real estate portfolio of over 40 projects and exceeding a value of 3.1 billion dirhams. That's roughly $1 billion. So the Binghatti brand aims to introduce the world to property that is identifiable through iconic architecture and branding. Muhammad BinGhatti, the CEO of Binghatti Developer, has said that we are going to accept cryptocurrencies, that is Bitcoin and Ethereum, either this week or the next for both existing and upcoming projects. We are starting with these two cryptos because they are the most widely accepted, and we'll see later whether to expand and add more cryptocurrencies. So that is definitely a great movement. Now, Dubai-based Binghatti Developers will sell properties against cryptocurrencies. Now, I believe they will become the second developer in the Emirate to accept this new form of payment this year. Damak was the first one, and I'll be talking about Damak properties in tomorrow's episode as well. What Binghatti developers can also do is they can also start accepting stable coins, and they could do that so that it reduces volatility. What is really interesting to see, and something which I personally like, is that they're also accepting Ethereum as a form of payment. Does this mean that Ethereum is also moving as a medium of exchange? Now, if you do a bit of research, it also says that the company will protect its customers through a specific payment process where they will not be exposed to market volatility. The only way I can think you can do that is by stablecoins or by introducing a middle person, such as, let's say, a cryptocurrency exchange or someone who offers some kind of service or some kind of escrow service. So definitely a bit interesting to see what the outcome would be. One thing that company did clarify that they would not be holding cryptocurrency. So I'm not sure why that is the case. Now, personally, I think it'd be great if Binghatti developers do actually hodl, that is, hold on to their live cryptocurrencies and add that into the balance sheet. That would be a fantastic move for them over a long duration. And one of the leading newspapers, Khaleej Times, what they have said is that a payment link will be sent to customers, which will be updated every 10 seconds. Now, this is where I think either a cryptocurrency exchange will come into play or a second layer protocol such as Lightning Network or Polygon will come into play because the transaction needs to be done really quickly. Therefore, when the customers will pay, the funds will also be transferred into Binghatti's account in fiat currencies. So I think this is more to do with Lightning Network, but Lightning Network only deals with Bitcoin. Now, in case if you want to find out more, look at Strike. Jack Marlis from Strike is working on Lightning Networks where customers will pay in cryptocurrencies, but the funds gets transferred into the merchant's account in fiat currency. So it's unclear as to if they're using Lightning Network or Polygon Networks. Most likely, they're definitely using a second layer protocol. So it'll be really interesting to see if they are partnered with any cryptocurrency exchange and if they're using any second layer protocol. Nonetheless, definitely a very great use case for using cryptocurrencies, and at the end of the day, it does give customers more options to pay using cryptocurrencies. So that's all for today, guys, on the Crypto and Coffee Update from Blockchain DXB. In case if you guys have any feedback or suggestions, please drop me an email to info@blockchaindxb.com. You can also check my website, that is www.blockchaindxb.com, and also check out my other website, that is area2071.com. If you like listening to this podcast, please click on the like button, follow, and share the word across. Now, for the next 30 minutes, it's going to be an Ask Me Anything series where you listeners can ask any questions about Bitcoin, blockchain, beyond blockchain, cryptocurrencies, NFTs, DeFi, and Metaverse as well. So thanks so much for listening, and see you in the Ask Me Anything series. Hey everyone, it's George from Blockchain DXB. You're listening to the Ask Me Anything series where you listeners can ask any questions about Bitcoin, blockchain, beyond blockchain, cryptocurrencies, NFTs, DeFi, and Metaverse as well. And how these series of episodes on the Crypto and Coffee at 8 works is we usually cover top news and information pertaining to the price of cryptocurrencies, some major breaking news, occasionally short and sweet news as well. The other two news and information is related to Dubai, UAE and Middle East in the world of Bitcoin, blockchain, beyond blockchain, cryptocurrencies, NFTs, DeFi, and Metaverse. And what you're listening to right now is the Ask Me Anything series, where you listeners can ask absolutely any questions from the cryptocurrency world. I have a first question, and this is by Rahul, who asks, what do you think is the future of Tether USDT? Personally, Rahul, I am not a fan of Tether USDT at all. I've never been a fan of Tether USDT right since its inception. There's a lot of history behind Tether USDT. I mean, the founders, which is Bitfinex, they've had some shady dealings in the past. So essentially, Tether USDT lost roughly around $800 to $900 million that they have. And because they lost those funds, they tried to have another token, still in existence by the way, so there's absolutely no use of that. So what they did was, they tried to utilize those funds into having reserves for Tether USDT. And more importantly, Rahul, one of the reasons why I'm not a fan of Tether USDT is all stable coins needs to be backed 100% with the value of the US dollar. Let's say, Rahul, if there's 100,000 USDT, just as an example, Tether USDT needs to have $100,000 in the US in the bank account, but that has not been the case. They have set up the company somewhere in a remote island. They do audits, and the audit is done by their own company, and the audit also shows that they do not have funds. And what's the craziest thing is, they did publish an audit, and the audit was just a pie diagram. The entire audit literally was just one page. They just had a pie diagram, and in that pie diagram, they actually showed how much of cash reserves they had, how much of funds they have in paper, that is in bonds, in terms of property developments, and that definitely should not be the case. One thing which I'm worried about is if the cryptocurrency market were to go completely berserk, I think it could be because of Tether USDT, and Tether USDT might just be the black swan event which we do not need. It could also be possible that the US government could go behind Tether USDT, make an example of that, and then introduce central bank digital currencies. To an average person, they wouldn't know what the technical elements behind stable coins is, but they could push the narrative that CBDCs or central bank digital currencies are much better than stable coins. So that is one thing that I worry about. So to answer your question, I'm not a fan of Tether USDT at all. I do think that might just be the black swan for cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin. There are other stable coins such as USDC, which is done by Coinbase and Circle. The volume is relatively less, but they are at least much more open about it. They also have a consortium. As for the consortium, anyone can join the consortium. Now, I'm not sure in reality that would be the case, but they're at least much more open. And the audit is also much more open. In case of Tether USDTs or any stable coins, auditing, the funds needs to be backed 100% or 100%. More importantly, the audit needs to be done 24/7, not just during the audit process. So to answer your question, I'm not a fan of Tether USDT at all. I have another question by Chris, who asks, do you own NFT? Now Chris, personally at this point of time, I do own a couple of NFTs. And I was a bit skeptical when they started the whole NFT movement, because I've been involved in Bitcoin since 2013. I do own a couple of NFTs. Now what I do, Chris, and since you asked this, I also sell a couple of NFTs. Now in case if you guys want to sell NFTs, and if you want to do it for free, you can also do it by Rarible.com. You can do that by OpenSea as well. And OpenSea is kind of like the Amazon or the eBay, where the marketplace is huge, but you also have to pay the gas price, and it depends. If you're using Ethereum, the gas price could hold between $200 or $50. I'm not sure what the price is right now. But if you're using, let's say, Polygon, something which I touched upon earlier as well, which is a second layer protocol, then the fees are relatively less. But to answer your question, Chris, yes, I do own a couple of NFTs. But right now, what I'm focusing on is selling NFTs as well. And I don't want to tell it in the podcast, so go to Rarible and type in blockchain DXB because some of them are really fun and some of them are really cheesy ones. But I don't see a future of NFTs for an average everyday user. I don't think so NFT would be that critical, but for high net worthy individuals, NFTs will be the future. Now listen to this, Chris. NFTs will be the future for high net worthy individuals, provided they get some kind of tax benefits. Kevin O'Leary has a brilliant podcast with Anthony Pompliano where he talks about he's in talks with high net worthy individuals and how they're planning to get into NFTs. Even Ray Dalio finds NFTs interesting. Now it would be really interesting, and this is going right down to the rabbit hole, if there is any law which is passed that makes holding NFTs giving you some kind of tax concessions, or you can write off a certain amount of your tax. That would be the deal breaker for NFTs. So in case if you want to look at the future of NFTs, look at if by holding any NFTs you kind of get any tax incentives. If that is the case, then NFTs will be absolutely huge and absolutely massive. I have another question by Carly who asks, how is life in Dubai with all the crypto keys? Now Carly, personally, I'm absolutely a fan of living in Dubai. The government is extremely supportive, not just for cryptocurrencies, I mean even in general thing. Now what I personally, Carly, I'm more into running and I do a lot of obstacle course race. Every year in the month of October, Dubai has a Dubai Fitness Challenge where the entire city turns into a gym. So essentially, I would say 80 to 90% of the gyms, they offer free fitness classes, and these are not the small fitness. I'm talking about some of the really expensive and posh gyms. They are completely free for 30 days. So the government in general definitely is very supportive towards fitness, towards healthcare, and towards cryptocurrencies as well. Now, there's also, this notion that there is no politics involved. And because there is no politics involved, things tend to get passed extremely easily and much faster. Now that definitely has positives and negatives as well. The positive is that things get approved extremely quickly. Recently, just 2 weeks ago, there's a new education law which is being passed, and I won't be surprised if Dubai has the best education system in the world. Going back to cryptocurrencies, things get passed within a matter of weeks or months, which is never heard of. Look at things in US. I'm pretty much sure that there is a lot of dialogue back and forth, a lot of contradiction between the Republican and the Democratic Party, and the same thing in UK between the Conservative and Labour Party. Now, having opposition is definitely great, but the problem is it does delay a lot of the decision-making process. In case of Dubai and UAE, because there is no politics, the benefits are definitely huge. I mean, things get approved much faster and much quicker. There are negatives as well, as in, because there's one person making all the decision. What if they try to make the decision that is only in their own self-interest? That is also there. But that being said, so far, the government is extremely supportive, and the cryptocurrency craze is definitely for real. A lot of the startups are moving into Dubai. I'm quite active on LinkedIn, and since the last month or so, I receive a message at least once or twice a day where they say that they've just set up the company in Dubai, and because it is so crypto friendly, they're liking the place and they ask me for advice. So overall, Dubai is definitely great, and the craze is definitely for real. So that's all for today, guys, from the Crypto and Coffee Update from Blockchain DXB. In case if you guys have any feedback or suggestions, drop me an email to info@blockchaindxb.com. You can also check out my website, that is www.blockchaindxb.com, and also check out my website, that is www.area2071.com. Thanks, bye-bye.